Last week, I cleared out nearly all of my Tupperware. 3 drawers, 4 cabinets, decades worth of plastic accumulated over a lifetime. The containers that had matching lids, the ones missing their tops, the bowls dyed pink from spaghetti sauce, the warped dishwasher worn pieces, the ones passed down from my mother, the ones I bought myself, all of it vanished into a trash bag and went out to the curb. Right now, there's roughly a teaspoon of microplastic lodged in your brain. Researchers from the University of New Mexico conducted a study comparing human brain tissue from autopsies performed in 2016 to samples from 2024. The newer brains contained 50% more microplastic, roughly 7 grams on average. That is about the weight of a plastic teaspoon hidden inside the soft tissue of your skull. This research was published just last year, yet most people I know remain unaware. I decided to dig into it. I looked at why heating plastic in a microwave releases more particles than almost any other daily activity. I reviewed 3 separate studies that quantified microplastic in human placentas, testicles, and blood. I investigated why the black spatula in your utensil holder probably contains flame retardants from recycled electronics with 70% probability. And finally, I assembled a concise list of what I kept from my plastic collection and what I replaced it with. Midway through, I will reveal the findings inside that very black spatula in your kitchen drawer. The story traces back to 1938 when chemist Earl Tupper experimented with polyethylene at DuPont, a clear, flexible, food-safe plastic. He left the company and, by 1946, had perfected molding polyethylene into airtight food storage bowls, inventing Tupperware. The early products were sold in department stores but did not move. Customers struggled to understand the seal. Brownie Wise, a divorced mother, pioneered a home sales network. Women demonstrated the seal over coffee and cake in living rooms. These Tupperware parties turned the product into a household staple. My mother attended them, and likely so did yours or your grandmother. For 3 decades, Tupperware was a customary wedding or housewarming gift, often in pastel colors with names like Lettuce Keeper or Pie Taker. The original company even replaced cracked lids for free. Decades later, that original Tupperware company vanished. In September 2024, Tupperware Brands Corporation filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with over $1 billion of debt. Those containers from the 60s remain in kitchens, yet the modern company produces thinner, weaker plastics with different chemistry, despite carrying the same name and shapes. But the real concern extends far beyond Tupperware itself. Around 2018, researchers began scrutinizing what happens when plastics are exposed to heat. They suspected plastic shed particles into food, but lacked precise measurements. By 2023, a University of Nebraska study published in Environmental Science and Technology revealed shocking numbers. 3 minutes of microwaving a polypropylene container released over 4 million microplastic particles per square centimeter and more than 2 billion nanoplastic particles from a single square centimeter. Microwave safe does not mean particle free. It only ensures the plastic won't ignite. Storing food at room temperature for 6 months also released millions of particles. And refrigeration slows the process but does not stop it. One figure that truly startled me came from kettle studies. Boiling water in an electric kettle containing plastic components produced 3 million to 20 million microplastic particles per liter. Unboiled water from the same source contained around 300,000 particles per liter. Using a plastic-lined kettle had multiplied my daily microplastic intake by a factor of 50. I drink 3 cups of tea every day. This revelation drove me to finally tackle my drawers. In October 2024, researchers from Toxic Free Future and the Amsterdam Institute for Life and Environment analyzed 203 black plastic kitchen products sold in the United States. Cheap spatulas, ladles, slotted spoons, takeout containers, sushi trays, even children's toys. The findings exposed what lurks in everyday kitchenware, showing just how pervasive and unavoidable plastic contamination has become. Researchers set out to determine whether chemicals prohibited in furniture and electronics had made their way into the black plastic items that come into contact with food. Astonishingly, 85% of the products they examined contained flame retardant compounds. The most prevalent, known as Deca-BDE, appeared in 70% of the samples, at concentrations ranging from 5 to 1,200 times above the European Union limit for that substance in consumer goods. These are the same compounds banned from furniture stuffing because of their neurotoxic effects. They were never intended to enter your meals, yet today they reside in the very spatula you use to flip your eggs. How did this happen? Modern manufacturing holds the answer. It begins with recycling, the flawed kind that fails to fully remove contaminants. When old televisions, computer cases, and appliance shells reach the recycler, their plastics are shredded, melted, and reformed. Sometimes they return to electronics, but more often they end up in the cheapest products that need to be black, as the recycled plastic is already discolored by previous contamination. Spatulas, sushi trays, takeout containers, children's toys. All of these now carry the legacy of past electronics. Flame retardants from a television made in 1995 can now be found in the spoon your grandchild uses for yogurt. The researchers later issued a correction. Their initial calculations of daily exposure had overstated the risk. The chemicals themselves, however, remain. They persist in 85% of the tested products and remain banned in furniture. Only the math changed. The harmful substances in your spatula did not. When I read that study, I picked up the black spatula I had long used to flip eggs. Purchased from a kitchen store some time ago, its handle bore a small worn spot from my thumb. Without hesitation, I dropped it into the trash. That led me to examine cutting boards. A 2023 study in the same journal estimated that a polypropylene cutting board could release approximately 79 million microplastic particles per year per person into the food processed on it. Polyethylene boards released between 14 million and 71 million particles, depending on frequency of use, what was cut, and how firmly it was pressed. These particles are invisible. They cannot be washed away. They integrate into the carrot you just chopped, the chicken breast you butterflied for dinner, the salad you served your family. Interestingly, wood cutting boards also shed particles, but they are plant cellulose, not plastic. Plant cellulose, however, does not appear in human brain tissue, while microplastics do, showing 50% more presence in 2024 than in 2016. Now we reach the chemicals that are harder to quantify. In the 1950s, the chemical industry introduced bisphenol A, or BPA, to coat the inside of metal food cans and to produce polycarbonate baby bottles. Lightweight, clear, shatter-resistant, it seemed miraculous. By the 1990s, researchers discovered that BPA mimicked estrogen in the human body, acting as an endocrine disruptor. Trace exposure has been linked repeatedly to hormonal disruption, fertility issues, and developmental problems in infants. The European Union banned BPA in baby bottles and extended the prohibition in 2024 to all food contact materials. The United States, however, has yet to implement a ban. The FDA continues to allow BPA in food contact applications and has been reviewing a petition submitted in 2022 to revoke that authorization, 4 years and counting. Here is the part that shocks me most. When consumer pressure mounted, the industry did not abandon bisphenol chemistry. Instead, they substituted slightly different bisphenols, BPS, BPF, BPAF. Labels began boldly proclaiming BPA-free. Technically, the original molecule targeted by lawsuits was gone, but the replacements are chemically similar. A 2025 peer-reviewed review concluded these alternatives are largely not safer, describing them as regrettable substitutions. They swapped molecules, the underlying problem remained. Someone has to read these studies because the manufacturers selling the spatulas certainly will not disclose their contents. Consumers have shared stories of buying full-priced Tupperware expecting the same quality their mothers received, only to have spaghetti sauce stain it and corners melt in the microwave. The label remained, but the molecule changed. This is not a unique case. Entire shelves of plastic in American kitchens appear identical to the Tupperware of previous generations. Yet these are not the same products. Companies were bought, supply chains shifted, molds relocated to different countries, and the internal chemistry was downgraded. Most of the plastic in your cabinet today was not made by the company whose name is on the lid. Here is what I actually held on to and what replaced the plastic I discarded. First, glass storage containers. The longest-running American manufacturer is Anchor Hocking, based in Lancaster, Ohio, founded in 1905. The same factory still presses glass today. These containers are made of tempered soda lime glass, so unlike the vintage Pyrex from 1965, you cannot transfer them directly from the freezer into a hot oven. For refrigerator and pantry storage, though, they are reliable. They are genuinely American-made and cost between $2 and $5 per piece at Walmart or Target. A set of 10 with lids runs about $40. The lids remain plastic. No workaround exists yet, but the food contacts glass. When reheating, remove the lid and use the oven instead of the microwave. For truly heat-resistant glass, vintage Pyrex from before 1998 retains its original borosilicate composition for the American market. Alternatively, French-made Pyrex is still borosilicate, labeled Made in France on the bottom, allowing safe transfers from freezer to a 400-degree oven. Next, mason jars. I began using them before I discarded plastics. The Ball Corporation has produced them in the Midwest since 1880. A pint-sized jar costs less than $2 at most hardware stores. The jar is glass, the lid metal, and the only soft component is the rubber seal. You can freeze liquids, store dry goods, or pour hot soup with the lid loosely placed. My pantry now contains 32 of them, costing less than the 4 Tupperware containers I gave up. The utensil holder proved the hardest. Every spoon, spatula, and ladle was scrutinized. All black plastic went. What remained were stainless steel and wooden utensils. The principle mirrors the difference between Type 304 and Type 2011 stainless steel. If the slotted spoon is black plastic, discard it. Wooden spatulas stay. Stainless steel spatulas last indefinitely. Cutting boards switch to hardwood varieties: maple, walnut, cherry. One well-made board costs around $50. Oiling it once a month ensures longevity far beyond any dishwasher. They release plant cellulose particles instead of polypropylene microplastic. Even knives deposit some material into food, but it is wood. The body processes it naturally. Smaller items proved simpler than expected. For wrapping, I chose beeswax wraps or parchment paper. Beeswax wraps are cotton-coated with beeswax and tree resin, molding to a bowl with the warmth of your hand. They cost around $6 at natural food stores, last about a year, and wash with cool water and dish soap. Ziploc bags and conventional plastic wraps suffer the same issues as containers. Silicone zip bags exist as alternatives. They cost more, but do not shed into food. Your grandmother covered leftovers with a plate. You can do the same. Morning routines changed as well. For coffee, I now use a stainless steel French press or a glass pour-over carafe. Both are simple, both honest. Grounds compost naturally, and water tastes as water should. The kettle remained my largest concern after that study. I sought one with a fully stainless steel interior. Cheaper electric kettles often have plastic water-level windows or plastic rings at the top where the handle joins the body, which can shed. My current kettle has none of these. Entirely stainless steel inside, no plastic windows, no top ring, costing about $60 at a hardware store. It boils a quart of water in 2 minutes and will outlast the next 3 I might have purchased. What strikes me most is that the technology to avoid plastic has always existed. Mason jars have remained unchanged since 1880. Anchor. Hawking continues pressing the same glass since 1905. A wooden spoon remains a wooden spoon. A cast iron skillet remains a cast iron skillet. These items were not replaced because they failed. Plastic replaced them because it was cheaper to manufacture, lighter to ship, and easier to mold into attractive colors that sold at the Tupperware parties your mother attended in 1972. For 3 generations, we exchanged functional, durable products for items cheap to produce. Today, a plastic teaspoon of that chemistry sits inside our brains. My grandmother stored leftovers in glass jars, used wooden spoons, and wrapped bread in clean cotton towels. She lived to 92. I'm not claiming plastic killed those who used it. I'm emphasizing that it was never truly necessary. Now check your kitchen. Pick up any black plastic spatula from your utensil holder. Examine the bottom of any plastic container in your cabinet. Is the brand still owned by the company that originally manufactured it? Take note and observe what you find. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.